Hey guys, so this is the longer update, and as you know, I tend to just take my time and work through the points and then give you my own thoughts and opinions. So, what's been happening? 1400 rings were shipped since the last update, which is a lot. The shipping process is much smoother now. We've got a lot better. We've got a great team working on that. Firstly, the guys at Umlaut again are helping us out and doing a great job of getting everything posted. So thanks to the Umlaut guys, and thanks to the to everybody that's been helping us sort the fulfillment as well. A lot of people have been coming in and just helping us build boxes and stuff like that, which is great. And that does take us up to 70%. So yeah, the majority of rings out. Still not all, obviously, and we'd rather have been at 85% now. And the reason that we're not at 85% is the alphas, the big delay that's come now from the alphas. Now, these delays on the well, so actually before I go into the alpha delays, check out all of the social tentacle ninja stuff that's there. There's a couple of Vine videos, a bunch of people putting tweets and pictures and stuff. It's great to see people integrating the ring into their home and the ring into their cars. And so the way that I see the ring is that it's like not a whole solution in itself. You've got to integrate it with other technology. Obviously it's a passive device, right? So that goes without saying, but we don't try and provide a solution. When people buy a ring, they buy one knowing that they're beginning a journey of exploration. It's not like an Xbox where you buy it and you plug it in and you buy everything through Microsoft or whatever. We try and encourage people to kind of find their own way, and it may be at some point that we do provide a digital door lock. But that's great. It's really what we're all about. We want people to tinker and stuff, so it's great to see that. So, revised schedule, and this is where we'll cover the alphas and stuff. So, you'd have thought by now we could make the alphas and not have any problems at all. We've made so many of them in the past, and they're so easy to make. Like, they're not even that complicated. Yet, the factory managed to balls them up on 2 counts. Firstly, the polishing was terrible. Like, really bad. We rejected 70%. I can't remember the exact quantity I said on the previous video of 500. So I guess we must have got like 1,000 delivered and 700 went back and 200 had the wrong... Oh no, I think it might have been 1,200 got delivered and like 700 went back. I think we had 300 left after the whole shizzle, like all of the issues were dealt with. So the bunch, 70% weren't polished properly, which is... Just come on now, do you know what I mean? Like, we've sent so many poor finished rings back to them and just been like, what are you doing? And then, well, let's just hope that when they get them, they say, yeah, we'll just repolish them and it's not a problem. If they turn around and say, well, they're now fails because we can't repolish them, then that's going to be a whole world of pain. Because we pay for all of the tech, basically. Every ring that they fail costs us X in dollars because of our techs inside there, and you can't take it out. And we don't have an agreement in place yet. However, on the next order, we do have an agreement in place that says that there is some liability on their part to stop ballsing up so much. And then the second thing was it's just such a schoolboy thing. They put the inlays in that said the old company name across them, and it's like, we've covered this so many times with them. We've had so many conversations, and we've said don't use those inlays on any transparent rings because they have the wrong company name. And it's just like they go and do it anyway. It's beggars belief. It really is, and it can be quite frustrating. And so basically, obviously, I have to make sure that you guys get your ring. Like our team's job is to liaise with the factory to get them to do the right thing, and we communicate as effectively as possible with them. And so when they make a mistake like this, which they know is a mistake, yet they've still sent us them. Like, the factory manager knows, the factory owner knows, our main representative, the factory, knows not to do this. And if they did do it, then just destroy them and remake them. You've made a mistake. Accept that you've made a mistake. Destroy them. Don't send them to us, and then we have to send them back to you, which adds 2 weeks lead time. Just make them right. Yeah, and as you can imagine from our perspective, it's frustrating for us because it means that it's holding up the majority of the collections and stuff, right? Because you're waiting on an alpha ring, which is... So we've got 2 other rings sat there in a box with a chain, waiting to go to you guys, and it just seems bizarre, and it's so frustrating. But anyway, it's by the by. We've got something now in place for it, and let's hope that they get it right this time, because going back 2 or 3 times on every order is just ridiculous. It's not acceptable at all, and it's just killing our ability to launch the alphas as pre-order rings as well, which means that we're not getting any sales in, and we've got operational costs. And money's just money at the end of the day. What matters is that we get the right rings out to you guys, and that we're a company that you guys kind of trust and can believe in. But when you guys, we can't trust the factory to get it right. That means you guys can't trust the factory, which means that you guys lose confidence in us. So the way that we're dealing with this is, and I've said this before, is we're bringing other factories on board. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, actually, but anyway, I don't think it's that much of a secret now. But we're still going to keep the original factory building these rings, because the other factories are taking a little while longer to come on board, because the other factories are doing everything from engineering drawings, and we've got to get the engineering drawings right. And it's not for every ring. We don't just have one engineering drawing. It's 2 or 3, and that's for every ring size as well. So we have to have like 100 and something engineering drawings, and that's because you'll have an engineering drawing for the 3D model of the ring blank, but some factories will do it milled, and some factories will do it laser welded. So you'll have a different design for those guys, so some will be hollow and some will be solid. So what you try and do is create engineering drawings that can be used across the board, and for every ring size you have arc lengths that change for the inlays and stuff. It's been a real process of discovery, basically. You can't just drag it and resize it, if you know what I mean, because as you resize the absorber layer, the compression changes and it makes it longer, and you've got to make sure it makes it shorter, and you've got to make sure that the size is right. So yeah, it's been a real challenge getting the other factories to come on board, but we're getting there now. This ring that I'm wearing now is actually from another factory in South Korea. So we're working through those problems, and we're getting there. And we've placed a preliminary order with the second factory, and that I think for 5,000 rings, I think. So we're confident that they'll come on board, but that doesn't really help kickstart people, because the lead time is like 4 weeks. And so even if they started producing the first ring on June the 7th, then we wouldn't have them until July the 7th. But it just means, hopefully it means that you guys believe that we're taking the steps required, and we've been working on this for a couple of months, obviously, probably 3, to have a sustainable ring supply chain, and not just sit on our laurels and expect this factory that's been messing us around so much to suddenly stop messing us around. There's other stuff going on there. There's a bunch of politics and stuff with the factory that I've not really covered in these updates, mostly just because it's so petty. And when you're trying to build an engineering product or anything that's technical, you just don't want to have to deal with petty companies messing you about. But that's what's happening. And we're working through it. So next thing is custom rings. Basically, we only got like 10% of all the custom rings we were supposed to get. Some of them look great. The majority do. Some look shocking. And we've just rejected those and sent them back, and pretty much only one ring out of we were supposed to get like 200 custom rings. I think we got 20, and one I think was engraved, or maybe it was one type. It is just, it's comical. There's no point me expressing my frustration anymore, because you guys know how I feel. And then we've got the out of stock ring size issue, and this is just due to the popularity of these rings. And because they were the most popular, they were the first ones to be produced, and that meant that we rejected a load of them because they failed on read, and because they were the first ones to produce, they also failed on visual inspection. So because we rejected them, the factory didn't then put them back into the production runs. What they did is they said, well, they've been rejected, they're no longer part of the order. And it's like, we emailed them back within 2 days of receiving them, saying you need to remake X amount, and they've not even tagged it onto the order. We updated the order grid sheet. We've got a huge grid sheet with all of the colours and makes and sizes and stuff listed, and they've just totally ignored that. A lot of the time we just get random rings. Like, somebody will have ordered a TB rainbow size 6, and we'll get a TB rainbow size 5 and a TB rainbow size 9, and nobody's ordered those, and we just get them, and we're like, well, they're no use to us because we can't fulfill an order with them, and they're not going to be pre-ordering, so we're just going to reject them and send them back to you. It's just another issue with the factory, just to try and we're working to their standards as well. It's their grid sheets that we built to. I just think that they just ignore them and send us whatever we want. somebody described it really well to me. It's basically like school kids trying to do business. They're just basically playing around. It's not. They don't seem to take it seriously, or as serious as we'd expect, or as maybe in the West. And probably this isn't a true statement. This is probably incorrect, but maybe it's just a different culture. When you order something, you expect to get what you've ordered. And the knock-on for that is that when we then supply replacement rings, is that we have to basically match up to the best of our ability. So if you've ordered, say, a blue-plated ring with a black top and a white bottom, and we can't supply that blue-plated ring because we've just not been sent it because of the plating issues, and we've sent you a titanium with a black top and a white bottom. We try to match up, and obviously it's a size. And we've had a lot of positive feedback from people when we've sent them the ring as close as possible, matching as close as possible. So say they've ordered, well, just take that as an example. We've had a lot of people say, yeah, I'm actually really happy with this, it looks great. And because a lot of the time they're the stock rings that we can't fulfill through Kickstarter, so it might be like TBB or TBW, which there's no other orders to fulfill on Kickstarter yet, and they're just in as pre-orders. A lot of the time what we'll do is we'll send one of those rings, and because with their pre-order rings, we've spent a lot of time getting them right, and the factory have produced a lot of them, so our QA process is really tight on those. It sucks because you're not getting exactly what you ordered, but these are the compromises that we're having to make just based on the fact that that's how the factory is supplying based on our order. And realistically speaking, if we were to go back to them and we were trying to order 200 blue-plated rings now, they'd just probably flap and say, oh no, we're too busy building the other rings. Actually, this final thing about the factory, because I don't want to sit here and moan about the factory, because ultimately you guys don't care about that, but we had a conversation with them this week, and we said, realistically speaking, how many rings can you make a week? And they said 12,000. We were just like, you're making 500 rings a week top, and you really think you could do 12,000? And then you're saying to us, oh, we can't make rings when we've got issues with staffing, and they still think they make 12,000. It's just like, it's just another planet. Anyway, that's by the by, that's issues that we're having with the factory and production, and I just figured, for other people that are running similar projects, you want to watch out for these gotchas. This isn't the first time I've covered it really neither. So, next thing is software updates. NFC Ring Unlock app is having some updates on how the app works. So, at the moment, you can enable security without having a ring set. Now, obviously, that's something that we've needed to address. You also will need to put a PIN code in as a backup. So we've had people that have used two-form authentication with Google's two-form authentication, and that stops you being able to use your Google login to get back into your phone. So we're putting a compulsory PIN in there, and it will also mean that once you go on airplane mode, you'll still be able to get into your phone, because obviously if you're in airplane mode, it disables NFC and Wi-Fi. And that means when you lock your phone, you can't get back in. So the PIN means that you've got that third workaround for when you've got all of your data connectivity turned off. That should be out with beta testers within a week. We're actually doing 6 or 7 other feature requests at the same time, but they're all related to usability and to stop you being locked out. And this is because somebody, I won't say senior, it's not a fair word, somebody that we have to hold in extremely high regard as a company managed to get themselves locked out of a phone. And that was that was like the kick in the bum that we needed to get around to finally get this sorted. And the reason that we're not doing masses and masses of a push around the unlock stuff is because on the 16th of June there's due to be some big changes around that, and we're just basically buying our time and watching to see what happens around the Android ecosystem on the 16th of June. So when the 16th of June lands, if things land our way, or the community's way, then it means that a lot of the development won't be our responsibility anymore. I can't give too much more information. I have to be a little bit cryptic because this isn't public domain stuff yet. But if it doesn't land our way, then that means that we will continue our development and push our development cycles through faster to make updates and improvements and to add new features and functionality. So we'll just sit tight. I think there'll be 2 weeks now where we'll be quiet on the unlock side and we'll focus on the control side, just bug fixing and adding some new features to that. That's pretty much it on software. Next thing is pre-orders. I actually could rant for ages on pre-orders. I'm not gonna. They're not that important, especially to Kickstarter people. The takeaway from the whole of the pre-order section in the update is that we have to fulfill the pre-orders that we said that we fulfill in May. But what we're doing is that we're only fulfilling the pre-orders that can't be fulfilled as a Kickstarter order. So that means that if you've ordered a ring that we could possibly fulfill in some way, shape or form, we will only do it if we will always fulfill your order first as a Kickstarter backer or as a crowdfunding backer. You will always be the priority before the pre-order person, and the pre-order person will be told, sorry, but we're waiting for stock. That's pretty much the only takeaway, is that that's what you need to know about that. And basically what we wanted to do was make sure that we covered any fallout in case a pre-order ring landed before a Kickstarter order ring. Naturally, there will be some pre-order rings landing before Kickstarter order rings, but that is only because we could fulfill those orders. It would be stupid for us to have a load of rings in stock that could be fulfilled as pre-orders that can't be fulfilled as Kickstarter orders and not ship them out. Like, it'd be, nobody wins. Everybody wins by people having rings, and everybody wins by us making sure that the factory get exactly what we need within the next X weeks. So yeah, it was just about making sure that people were aware and that we're not doing it under the radar. We're not trying to be sneaky about it. We want it to be completely open and transparent. So you've got your ring now, and you wanted to start doing awesome things. If you're watching this long video, you're probably already part of the community. You're probably hitting up the forum. You're probably hitting up Reddit, IRC, the blog, Twitter, all of the different socially spammy places. But the majority of the developments going on the forum, and you'll see people talking about digital door locks, car starters. Lockie's done an awesome car starter video. Pierre is working on the Eagle files for a car start schematic for the board. Yeah, everybody's doing a bunch of hacky projects, and basically that's what you want to get involved with. There's actually interesting thing that I saw the other day. There's a group of people that started a Windows Phone Unlock app project. I'm not sure whether that's going to be doable, but if it is, and we see a working basic prototype, then what we'll do is we'll support it through might not be through funding, but we might just send a bunch of rings out and try and get people involved. So if you're a Windows Phone user and that's the functionality that you want, it might be worth jumping on the forum and joining their beta test program, because hopefully they'll do it open source. Firstly, we'd encourage that. We can't make it compulsory, but we'd certainly encourage it. And secondly, hopefully they will do it as a community project and get beta testers involved from the community. So it should be pretty cool, and it should be some really interesting things. And we're really grateful for everybody that's making a contribution and helping out, because, as you guys know, community is really important to this whole process. And then the next thing was, in the previous video, I covered the potential of sharing the company, so that we didn't hit the kind of Oculus style experience where we sold out, saying that we sold out. It's not fair. I was mean last time as well, and I don't mean to be mean. Or there was an acquisition. I've not really had that much thought on that, but there's been a bunch of people commenting on the forum. So if it is something that you're interested in or you want to share an opinion, then I suggest you just jump on the forum and join the conversation. Ultimately, we very much engage as much as possible with the forum based on the amount of time that we've got throughout the week. Obviously, the last few weeks have just been taken up completely with packing and pointless sales meetings and all of the usual nonsense that you have as a business. And also we've got all of the support requests, which we're now running in a bit of a backlog on. We on this forum thread, as far as people discussing share ownership, we're completely open to different ideas. The community voice needs to be heard, so get involved, have the conversation. Don't expect us to make that decision for you. You guys will put forward your preferred choice, and we 99.9% of the time do exactly what you guys want, because it tends to work well for us. We have to harbour a community. We have to support and facilitate you guys. It's not about us providing you with just a product or as a service. The whole ecosystem, the whole community around this project is what makes it work. If it's just me preaching to you guys what I think's right, then nobody wins. So yeah, jump on the forum, get involved in that, share the conversation about sharing the company. It's pretty interesting. And then the last thing is, on the 11th of June, I head down to Devox UK. I'm there from the 11th through to the 16th, I think. It should be a good event. You might not be able to get into the actual event, but we're taking a bunch of toys down with us, and we're going to be exclusively demoing some of our future tech. And that's because this is the first conference. So we've been invited to loads of conferences for free. massive conferences, and we've been invited, offered huge stands and the opportunity to talk to people, but none of them have worked well with our schedule. We're still only a small company, and though we're growing, we kind of find conferences a little bit, I don't know what the word is. There's a lot of noise at conferences, and even though we're like one of the most exciting things, or an exciting project, we're still competing with a lot of marketing noise, and we don't have the revenue to put up massive big fancy signs everywhere. But the great thing about Devox, and why we chose to have Devox as our first festival, is that it's a developer conference. The people that run the conference are all great people, and we're going down and we're having a bit of fun. So we're taking down the Nerf NFC gun, and a bunch of other exclusive stuff, and we're just doing it. We're going down there. We're not trying to sell to anybody. Nobody's there to buy, which is great. Cause we don't want to. We're hanging out basically with engineers for 3 or 4 days. We then up at the NFC forum. So I go down there with basically a bag of like zombies and NFC guns. And then I go straight up to Edinburgh from London to the NFC forum event, which is a bit more kind of commercially focused. Not to take anything away from it. I'll be doing a lightning talk up there about crowdfunding an NFC project. I'm quite looking forward to meeting some of the NFC forum members, because there's a lot of really exciting stuff happening around NFC, and if you're not involved in that kind of community, then you can easily lose touch. We're probably about 2 years behind on involvement. There's a lot of new exciting implementations of NFC that we can bring into the ring, and being part of the NFC forum will help us move forward. But again, it's not a sales event. We won't be looking to sell to any businesses or sell to any consumers. We're purely going up just to kind of engage with the different communities there, and hopefully we'll be able to bring that back into our own community. So if you are about in London on the 11th to I think roughly the 16th, I'm getting the sleeper train up to Edinburgh, which should be awesome. Then let me know, drop me an email through the support, and might be able to get time to grab a beer or a coffee or whatever. Also, don't forget the first football game's on the 14th, I think. So that should be good. For those that aren't English, it's our first World Cup game, which is kind of not a huge deal, but it's in England. It's kind of a semi-big deal. Not that we're going to win anything, of course, but. And then if you're up in Edinburgh on, I think the 16th or 17th, I will have some spare time throughout the day. And if you just fancy hanging out or kicking it in a cafe or having some beers or whatever, then just get in touch through the support at nfcring.com, and then that'll get assigned through to me. So, yeah. Last thing I'm going to cover is stealth bombers. So we're working to improve. Well, I say improve. We're working to actually be able to make the stealth bombers. I don't want to go into too much detail because we're really early on. The R&D process is, we have 2 problems to solve. We have the plating issue, which is solvable by potentially changing the material that we use for the metal, and we have the issue surrounding the carbon fibre itself. So there was 2 issues, and I know I've covered this before. So we think that we may have found a way to solve the material issue, but we've not even got a prototype for that yet. So it's really early for me to talk about this. This is a community member has asked if I'll talk about it briefly, and I'm ad-libbing it. I've got no notes. This isn't even part of any of the update or anything that's written. So we're probably a month or 2 away just from seeing a prototype, realistically speaking. We have to send them through engineering drawings, they have to do all the machining, they have to set up their machine to make it. These things take time and money naturally as well. So that's a material issue. And then to solve the carbon fibre issue, what we're looking at the moment is using a Kevlar polymer nylon. And the advantage with using Kevlar is it's not carbon, which means that it doesn't affect the RFID signals in theory, but we haven't tested that yet. Well, we have tested it. we haven't run it. We've not tested it with the professional, the proper equipment. You know, the RFID spectrum analyzer that we've got. We've just tested it with basic usability tests. We're probably a week or two, or maybe 3 away from knowing if Kevlar nylon. I can't remember what I called it now. Kevlar nylon polymer. I'll go with that. KNP. I'm probably horribly wrong, but let's just say Kevlar. We're probably a couple of weeks away from knowing if Kevlar is a good substitute for the carbon fibre. It looks great, but it's the depth. And what we don't want to really have to do is have a separate ring blank for the carbon fibre solution. But at the moment, it's looking like we're going to have to do that. In which case, it's another 96 engineering drawings and a bunch of pain. And it means setting up a supply chain for the Kevlar. And yeah, it's a lot of work. But it looks like we may be able to use that to solve the problem, and it may solve quite a few other problems as well. But again, we've not done any thorough testing. We've not got any prototypes yet. We've basically changed 90% of the materials that go into the ring to make the stealth bomber. And if we can pull this off with the materials that we're suggesting, and if the prototype's coming great, the price will go up probably by 20% on a ring. So you're probably looking at $60 roughly for a ring, something like that, maybe a little less. But the ring will be unbelievable. It'll be scratch resistant. The PVD plating will be scratch resistant completely, and I mean completely. The read performance will go up dramatically. It'll look great, assuming we can get the correct teal, which is the teal is like the weave, the thickness of the weave of the fibre. I'm actually really excited for it. You might not be able to tell by my tone, and I think the reason I'm not getting too excited is because it's so far away from being anywhere near realizable. And I guess like it's going to take. I've been pushing on it, and I've been trying to move these companies forward, but these things take time. Just to kind of give you an example, just to figure out the compression rate of the inlay, how that changes as the inlay size changes, we have to make these gauges. So you get like minimum, and then you put an inlay across there, and you make sure it fits completely flush, and then you have a maximum, and you see how well it fits. And we've had to make, you know, a series of these gauges in different sizes, so you get a minimum, a medium, and a maximum, and then you're able to see if you've got a curve in the. So basically, when you've got your inlay and it's like this, then the arc length doesn't change. It's maybe 19.6 mil, but as it changes like this, the compression means that it reduces down to say 18.6 mil. And the issue is that as it compresses down and the arc length changes, if you have a gap either side, then our inlay cover material will bubble up but it'll divot down either side. So what you need to do on your engineering drawing is take into account for these changes. So we have to create these gauges. That takes a few weeks for the engineering company to do. We have to create engineering drawings for that. We then test it. Then we do the basic math on it. We then do model testing on that math. We then create another gauge that then tests each of our ring sizes. So we have to have 24 at different thickness bar. So you know, that takes like another week to get through all the math process, and it takes a while just to get through each of these steps. It's not and because we do everything from an engineering perspective, we don't just say, for example, have one really thick gauge, which is what the majority of the other rings are doing. They just have a massive cutout and fill it with crap. We do everything kind of precision to make sure that it's right and as accurate as possible. You're dealing with 50th, like say 100th of a micron. No, it's probably not that less. So the smallest change that we'll probably make is say 20 microns. We'll be working at the kind of those types of level, where a 4.5 will be 20 microns shorter on their arc length than a 5. You know, and we need to make sure that we get these measurements completely correct, so that when they go through to the glue factory, we get them right. And so my point is that for every change that we make has a knock-on effect where we have to go through to the glue factory and tell them the new specs, or we have to, when we change a material, the material will have different tolerances. So if we were to use, say, steel instead of titanium, we'd have to retune the antenna. And there's just so many different factors that that we're used to it taking a while now. And that's why with the stealth bomber stuff, we are still working towards getting that done. I think the deadline's like July, when I need to have a confirmation on how we can go ahead and proceed, and then it's something like that. We said 6 months from about March, so I think I have to have production done by September, and that'd give me a 2-month window to run off maybe 2,000-3,000 rings, which should be fine, you know, assuming we can keep the costs within a set amount. She just whilst. No, I better not do this. I was going to show you some of the prototypes that we're going to take to Devox, but I've said that they can have an exclusive look. So once they've had the look, which is in like 10 days, then I'll get them online and show you guys them. So that's where we're at. It's been another long video. Come and see me. And thanks again to everybody that's helped out with the community, and thanks to everybody for being so patient. Thanks for watching all this video. Congrats for making it to the end. And peace.